Hello and welcome to Monday. It is time yet again for another Apple event. March 21st, 2016 Apple event. Starting off with some kind of 40 years and 40 seconds thing. This should be fun. So they did 40 years and 40 seconds because April 1st is Apple's 40th birthday. And then Tim Cook opened up talking about the FBI government San Bernardino situation, and also this is all taking place in a town hall, and it's really small. Like this isn't a big Apple event. I don't expect there's going to be like huge news today. There's only like probably 40 people in there. Environment. They just spent like the past 10 minutes talking about environment stuff, which is cool, and Apple's always been kind of gung-ho about. They got to talk a little bit about the process and the recycling and things like that. Now we're moving on to health. I'm interested in products, but maybe we'll get there. They're talking about ResearchKit, and apparently it's been super successful, which is awesome because the idea is really incredible. We've talked about it a little bit on some of the past Apple events. Basically, it allows them to collect huge amounts of data from different people everywhere that have these devices. In fact, they were talking specifically about, they did a Parkinson's study, and it was the largest study ever done just because so many people had these devices. Which is cool, because that actually hits pretty close to home, because that's something that runs in my family, and I have had, relatives that have, suffered from that, so it's cool to see that mentioned specifically. So Apple has introduced CareKit, so you'll be able to send information to your physician, like if you're recovering from a surgery, and depending on how you're doing, they can update what it is you're supposed to be doing to recover. Super neat idea. And I just think it's cool that we live in this time, that we have all this technology at our fingertips. It's really, really cool. Apple Watch is almost a year old, and they gave it a price drop. You know that Apple Watch 2 is coming. It's just a matter of when. Apple TV is successful. People like it. Best-selling numbers in Apple TV history or something. We have one, and we enjoy it, so that's cool. Apparently there's 5,000 apps for it already. We don't really use the apps that much, but apparently there's a bunch of them. The crowd, which was admittedly very small, went wild when Tim Cook announced this new amazing feature for Apple TV, folders.
Now I'd like to talk about iPhone.
The rumors are true. The iPhone SE is a thing. It's basically a 4-inch iPhone. Some people want 4-inch iPhones, and Apple is going to continue to make them. Really interested to figure out what the specs in this thing are going to be. In a roundabout way, they're saying the iPhone SE is basically as powerful as the 6S. Not the 6S Plus, because the 6S Plus actually has slightly different stuff in it, but the 6S. Which is good, because up to this point, the only option to have a 4-inch phone was the 5S, and the 5S is lagging pretty far behind the 6S. It'll capture 4K video. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. I'm wondering if the screen resolution has increased at all, but I don't think they've talked about that yet. So they never talked about screen resolution, but I guess it doesn't matter because it would still have the same Retina display that the 5 and the 5S had. I forget exactly what pixel count is for that, but I guess it doesn't really matter. There's no reason to increase that. The thing that impressed me was the price. 16 gigs, which is not enough gigs, is $399, which is by far the cheapest iPhone they've ever had. And the 64 gig model, I guess they're doing away with 32 gig, is $499. So for anyone that wants a 4-inch phone, it's a pretty inexpensive 4-inch phone, especially considering the fact that it's basically a 6S in a 4-inch body. That's pretty neat. I also wanted to throw in another comment here that this should have been the phone that Apple made 32 gigs the base model. 16 gigs is not big enough for anyone. It's not big enough for my parents. The only way it would be big enough is if you never took a single photo and you had like nothing on your phone. So for almost everyone on the planet, 16 gigs is not big enough. That should not be the base model of any iPhone. Anyway, just wanted to get that out there. 32 should be the new base, and they better do it with the iPhone 7. They spoke briefly about iOS 9.3, which is coming soon. The big thing is, what do they call it? Night shift, or whatever, where it like changes the color of the display. It's basically what's the app? Is it Flux? I think it's called Flux for the computer. It basically does that for the phone. I'm pretty sure you've been able to do the same thing on Android for quite a while. You may have to root Android, but you can do it. Basically, they hit on that, and there's some other education stuff, but that was it. Now they're talking about iPad, and the fact that the iPad Pro was large. iPad is dead. iPad is officially dead. Just because they're making a 9.7-inch iPad Pro, which is the same size as an iPad, that means iPad is dead. I don't know why they would make another iPad. The new iPads will just be called iPad Pros, so they're just getting rid of the moniker iPad, I guess. I just realized that I've been out of the loop a little bit, and actually this goes back further than I even thought. We got rid of iPad a long time ago because the new iPads were called iPad Air. Because that was like a separate thing, but then there were no more iPads and iPad Air was the thing. So now this is different because we're getting rid of iPad Air, and the iPad Pro is going to be better than the iPad Air. So the new iPad Air will be iPad Pro.
This is great.
Yeah, surprising no one, this iPad Pro is better than the other iPad Pros. The one feature that does stick out that I did think was interesting was the Paperwhite thing. It basically senses the lighting that you're in, like depending if the lighting is yellow or blue or whatnot, and it actually changes the tone of whatever you're looking at, which I think is pretty neat. But otherwise, it's an iPad, and it does all the stuff an iPad does. It's a little more powerful, and I guess I'm still learning about it. iPad Pro is $600 for 32 gig, and for the first time ever, they are selling a 256 gig iOS product, because they've never done that before. But that is now available for this new, smaller iPad Pro, which is replacing the iPad Air, which replaced the iPad, so I'm assuming this is just a new iPad, but they're not calling it the regular iPad, it's now the iPad Pro, which means that from here on out until they make a new version of the iPad, it will always be called the iPad Pro. And that is it. It is over. It was kind of short and sweet. I had a feeling that it was going to be a short thing, and it was. It was basically just a handful of things. The most exciting thing is probably the fact that ResearchKit is working, that they're able to continue to collect data to help with you know, all the various diseases and things that we have. I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool, and I'm glad that they're pushing for that. As far as the iPhone SE, cool. I mean, it's basically an iPhone 5 or 6S, but small. And there are certainly people that like that. Haley, for instance, obviously Haley is a shorter person. She has smaller hands. There's no way that she would ever want like an iPhone 6S Plus. So that would be a good thing for her to get. I think she actually got a 6, and I think she said that she would prefer having a smaller phone even than the 6. So maybe in the future she'll get the iPhone SE. All in all, meh, it's okay. I had a feeling it wouldn't be crazy big updates. It was neat learning about the smaller iPad and the smaller iPhone. To be honest, it was really an event about smaller. It was an event about making some of the devices smaller. Talk about the event down below if there was anything that stood out that was positive or negative, or that you'd like to talk about. It'll be interesting to see what pops up at WWDC later on this year. That's usually where they talk about some of the more interesting things, and it'll be fun to see what they have in store. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Let's meet back tomorrow, shall we?